Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm Salvador, and I'm going to share my screen so as to show you the integration. I'm going to show the whole solution. It's a Milestone with both the access control and the intrusion plugins, so that you can get a general idea. So, can you already see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
So this is Milestone. You may already know the access control plugin. This is the existing one. We have all the parameters to connect to the access control. We import all the doors from the access control system. We can link cameras to the doors, and so we have this is the existing and well-known access control plugin, and we have added is what we have developed is the intrusion plugin. Here's the screen when you add the AES intrusion system. You only need to specify what the name in Milestone to identify the system, the connection parameters, host name, the IP address, and the port. This integration is using the socket interface API. So when you have to configure a user and not the relevant parameters into in the AEOS system, but it's the same interface, the same API that is used for the access control plugin. So the only thing you will have to do is to add a user with the proper permissions, and that's it. You specify IP address, port, the name of the certificate. You can use the SSL or not. You can use it without if the customer wants, and then the user and the password, and that's it. Just with this configuration, the plugin automatically connects to AEOS and retrieves all the areas and the detectors that are defined in AEOS intrusion. You have here areas and detectors, and that's it. The plugin is already configured, and you can start working with it. For further configuration, you can change the name of the detector so that when you drag them into the map, you can identify, the operator can identify them easily. And we have added the option to specify for each detector what kind of detector it is. So we can have a volumetric detector, seismic, a glass break, a magnetic contact, or a panic button. And this will change the icon that is representing the detector in the smart client. I'll show you later. The plugin creates a set of events so that you can use these events from the AEOS intrusion system to trigger rules or to define alarms. For example, you can define an alarm. You have here AEOS intrusion, and you have all the events from the AEOS intrusion part when you have an alarm on a detector on an area, if there's a tamper, a fault, when you connect or get disconnected from the AEOS system. You have a bunch of events. So with any of them, you can define an alarm. For example, we could say that an alarm in a detector in any detector, for example, it would be an AEOS intrusion. Okay. So we have already defined an alarm from an event from EOS. The same events, we can use them to trigger rules. For example, let's see if I have a manual test. No, let me share. But I'm going to show you first the events and then the actions. You can define rules to be triggered by any of these events. An area arming, a detector being inhibited or isolated, or when you lose connection with EOS, with any event, you can trigger rules. For example, you might want to move a PTZ camera to a specific preset when a detector is active, but the area is not armed. So it's not an alarm because the intrusion system is not armed, but you may want to have a look on what's happening or why the detector is active. So you can have this detector active but not armed event, and then you can move the PTZ camera. The plugin, apart from all these events, it also adds actions. Actions in the Milestone rule system is what you do when an event is triggered. An event triggers some actions. And our plugin adds, you can automate actions to arm or disarm or forcibly arm areas, start testing or stop testing. And about detectors, you can inhibit, isolate, or restore all the alarms on a specific detector. So with any event that can be potentially triggered in Milestone, you can perform actions into the EOS intrusion system. The plugin also offers the security permissions configuration by roles. So you can specify for a specific role, user role, the permissions that those users have on the intrusion elements. These are the available rights or permissions. You can specify if they can arm or they can disarm or test the areas. And regarding detectors, you can specify if they can inhibit, isolate or stop isolation, and restore alarm. And you can do it generally on all detectors, or you can do it by detector and by area. You may want some users, they can see all the detectors, but they can only arm one specific area, or they can inhibit a detector, which is a temporary change, but they cannot isolate, for example. And these are all the options about configuration. And then what we have in the smart client, the operator. Here we have again the whole system. We have some doors from the access control plugin, which is example 5pass card. We get the event. I have defined an alarm if I get somebody rejected at the door. We will have an alarm. Okay, so we have this would be an access control related alarm. Somebody is trying to access through a door that is not permitted to. And at the same time, we have in the same map doors so that we can unlock doors forever. And all the intrusion elements that we have: areas, sidecars, and each detector, when we have configured the type of the detector, and we have the volumetric, the magnetic contact, glass break, and seismic detector. Okay, so you are from the map, you can see, you can have an overall overview of the state of both the access control system and the intrusion system. And you can also operate. The green color shows an idle status. If I, for example, I can arm area 2, which is detectors 3 and 4, and automatically see that they are already in orange, which is armed. Okay. And for example, I can, let's say, inhibit detectors or isolate them. And I'm gonna trigger an alarm. For example, in detector 3, which is already armed. And so automatically we get the status from the icon color. You can see the status in both the map and on the side panel. On the side panel, you have a quick overview of the whole intrusion system, ordered by areas and which detectors belong to each area, and automatically the status of the. I have, as we define an alarm, we get the alarm here in Milestone. If I restore the status of the detector, the alarm is still active, but I can, with a right click, I can restore alarms. So it gets back to the arm state. This, I can close the Milestone alarm. And the same commands that I can perform on areas and detectors, which are arming, disarming, forcibly arm the area, and start and stop the test or self-test. Regarding detectors, I can inhibit, de-inhibit, isolate, or de-isolate the detector, and then when there's an alarm, I can restore the alarm. And the same commands that can be performed from the map, they can also be performed from the side tree view. So I can disarm system. I can, no, this was isolated. I can stop isolation. Disinhibit detector, arming. So you have the whole system, cameras, access control, and intrusion in the same view. Regarding the user permission, for example, I have logged in with a user without permission. I show you permissions of these users. I could do everything on area 1, but I cannot arm or disarm area 2, for example. And I should be able to inhibit and disinhibit detector 2, but I could not isolate or stop isolation. And detector 3, I have no rights. So if I try to arm area 2 from a user which is not allowed, I get a message: this user is not authorized to perform that action. So I know that I cannot arm or disarm this area. Here I can inhibit and disinhibit the detector, but I cannot isolate. So I get the message again, this user is not authorized to perform the action. So this way you can do a very tailored user permissions control on the intrusion system from Milestone.